Welcome to Mushroom Mondays with Spore. I'm your host, Michael Zavik, co-founder of Spore Life Sciences. In today's episode, we'll be discussing mushrooms and heart health with cardiologist Dr. Diego Delgado. Welcome to the Mushroom Mondays show, Dr. Diego Delgado. Appreciate you joining us today.
Hey, Michael, how are you? Thank you for inviting me.
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Jumping into it, so for our viewers that aren't familiar with your work, can you tell us a little bit about your position?
Yes. So I'm a cardiologist at the University Health Network. I'm specialized in heart failure and cardiac transplantation. I've been at the University Health Network for more than 20 years now. I'm also an associate professor of medicine at the University of Toronto, where I teach medicine and cardiology. And currently, I'm the medical director of the cardiology in-service program at the Toronto General Hospital as well.
Wow, that's super fascinating. Not a skill set that you come across every day. What inspired you to get into this field?
I will say many things, but probably my biggest and first inspiration was to see my father practicing medicine and being a cardiologist. That's when I learned back home in Argentina the importance of cardiovascular medicine and how we can change life by treating the conventional we call cardiac risk factors and the impact that it has in overall improvement in health and cardiovascular health in our patients. So I think I learned from when I was a child that, and then I realized that was a fascinating world that evolves all the time. There's new always technology and new developments. So that's why it still inspired me to continue being a cardiologist.
It's a fantastic story. Sounds like a multi-generational journey for you. You know, some people pick up woodworking from their parents, but it seems like you picked up something far more complicated. What are some of the more common issues that you see in your patients?
So I would say that there are things that we see all the time. It doesn't matter age of the patient or the gender or where the patient coming from. These are what we call the cardiac risk factors. So that's hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol, smoking, obesity. All these factors has a significant impact in survival and cardiovascular survival. So these are the main concerns and reasons of consultations with cardiologists. I would say that I see in my practice all the time.
And heart health obviously being incredibly important, what are some of the, I guess, fundamental things you would recommend to people to maintain good heart health or decrease the likelihood of some of these issues in the future? Because they seem to pop up for most people at some point in their life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There are things that are under patient's control and things that we have no control. We cannot do anything with age. We cannot do anything with genetics. But yes, we can do things with our habits, how we eat, exercise, non-smoking. These are essential, basic things that can help us to have a healthy lifestyle, good, healthy heart, and therefore reduce the risk of having cardiovascular events.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, live a healthy lifestyle and you will reduce, I guess, risk factors for any ailment, but it seems like the heart in particular, there's some simple fixes being, exercise, eating, lifestyle, etc. And like medicinal mushrooms, given obviously my field of interest, like reishi, are touted for heart health. Could you tell us a little bit about which medicinal mushrooms may work for your heart health and how they may work, like what the mechanism is?
Yeah, so this is a fascinating area that we are starting to learn more and more. Mushrooms in medicine have been around for thousands of years, but for people like me that we practice conventional, traditional medicine, we are not there yet. In the last few years, I have a special interest in what we call complementary or alternative medicine, but still, many of my colleagues are not aware, not very familiar, and not very confident in prescribing any of these options. Mushrooms, and we are still learning really the mechanisms, but we know that mushrooms have significant impact in many diseases. And more recently, we learned that many mushrooms have an impact in cardiovascular medicine. Some of the benefits or the mechanisms that we think are anti-inflammatory effect, and we know that inflammation is associated with the risk factors that we talked before, and therefore they have an impact in mortality, stroke, heart attacks. So they have anti-inflammatory properties. They can also protect the heart, the myocardium. They can improve the performance of the myocardium. Some of the mushrooms can also reduce the bad cholesterol and increase the good cholesterol. And we have also recent data that can improve the levels of blood sugar, so therefore improve patients with diabetes. So there are multiple benefits that we are learning in the last few years, and that we think mushrooms will have a significant impact in cardiovascular medicine.
It's very interesting. And yeah, to your point, I guess the science is still relatively new and further research needs to be done, of course. But inflammation seems to be a very key factor that I keep coming across regularly. And to that point, another all natural ingredient, obviously not a mushroom, being coenzyme Q10, also known as CoQ10 or ubiquinone, is associated with treating some heart conditions or improving cardiovascular health. Can you explain kind of generally how this ingredient works as it relates to your heart health?
Yeah, no, CoQ10 has been also around for many years, and there is probably a little bit more data in animal data and in humans showing that also has benefits in cardiovascular medicine. The data shows that CoQ10 in specific doses can have an important antioxidant effect that we've seen in patients with even heart dysfunction. So when the heart is not working well, that being treated with CoQ10, that in fact these patients have depletion, so has less CoQ10 in the myocardium. By giving oral CoQ10, these patients can improve their functional capacity and even the heart function. And remember that CoQ10 is an important component in the production of energy in our cells that we call the ATP. So that's why in patients with heart dysfunction or for prevention of heart dysfunction, CoQ10 has a significant impact. So it's one of these supplements that we always recommend to patients with any type of cardiac condition.
Right, that's very fascinating. And yeah, I myself have been taking CoQ10 for some time now. I don't notice maybe like a dramatic difference, but I figure, for me, if it's working in the background, it's worth every dollar spent in terms of the hedge. If it is working, fantastic. If I'm not feeling it, that's okay too. I mean, the alternative is far worse. And on that note, are there any particular foods or supplements besides, of course, mushrooms and CoQ10 you would recommend for heart health?
Yeah. So that's a good question, and this is a question that many of our patients ask: what should I eat? Because everything seems to have a problem. I think is to have a balanced diet is what is essential. Meat, fish, chicken. Many people say, "Oh, this is very bad for you," but the reality is that some of the components that we recommend for cardiovascular medicine, they are, including CoQ10, in fact, are in those products. But I would say that in terms of foods, we're talking about vegetables, beans, are good in the products that we usually recommend. I would say that if we had to add more supplements, if the diet does not provide those supplements, I would say magnesium, vitamin D, also important in the metabolism of the heart, uh, vitamin B, B6, and B12, fish oil, carnitine. So these are products that we always recommend because they have also anti-inflammatory properties, and antioxidant properties that could be beneficial for any patient, but particularly for patients with heart conditions.
Right, makes perfect sense. So moral of the story, eat a balanced diet, include, if you're going to eat red meat or whatever it is in moderation, but you can still consume it, has some beneficial qualities, and eat lots of fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
So as part of your work, you're constantly speaking and educating. Are there any lectures or literature that you've published maybe online or elsewhere that our viewers can find?
Sure. Yeah. So there is, and probably the best way to find what I publish is going to PubMed, which is the largest database where we can find not only my literature but many others. In the last few years, as I mentioned earlier, I've been more involved in alternative medicine. I have, in fact, in a few months, a very comprehensive review of supplements, complementary, and alternative medicines in cardiovascular disease, particularly in heart failure. So it will be ready probably for publication and in the public domain in a few months. But there are many sources of very good data. But as you mentioned earlier, we are still learning and we are in the beginning of the story. And I think in the next few years, we are going to see hopefully more data coming with larger number of patients, eventually randomized clinical trials,
Mhm.
to see the importance of using this type of alternative medicine in addition to conventional medicine, traditional medicine.
Yeah, fantastic. And it seems like obviously there's this big movement towards alternative medicine in conjunction with traditional medicine. And I think, one of the problems is there isn't enough research out there, but thankfully it seems like things are moving in that direction. And, there are a lot of doctors and organizations, yourself, that are engaged in trying to figure out what the next best thing is. And on that note, there are a number of charitable organizations engaged in research and development of new treatments and support for people dealing with cardiovascular issues. Are there any organizations that you've worked with personally or that you feel are doing big things in the world of cardiovascular disease and overall health?
So there are many. There are many large international associations that are dedicated to cardiovascular medicine and slowly incorporating some of this idea of complementary medicine. Just to name a few examples, here in Canada we have Heart and Stroke Foundation, we have the Canadian Cardiovascular Society. In US, of course, the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association. Probably the association is more advanced in this is the European Society of Cardiology. And if you visit any of the websites, you will have now more and more data on complementary medicine. So I think this is a world that is moving fast, and as those who practice conventional medicine, we need to learn more how to incorporate this to our practice.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's great to see that people can now take, all natural sort of preventative measures to help assist, I guess, with their cardiovascular health before it deteriorates. And, as opposed to kind of going down maybe the more serious or pharmaceutical route right away. Of course, when it's too late, people often have no option and they have to consult with their doctor to see what's best. But on a more cheerful note, your position must come with an incredible amount of pressure and stress. What are some of the things that you do to decompress and look after your own well-being?
Yes, well, I think we all have that pressure, particularly in the last year and a half where our life has significantly changed. I would say that I try to have balance in my life, which is hard, but I try to separate my work from my personal life, and I enjoy sports. I practice quite a few sports, including martial arts, which it makes me release all my frustrations. I enjoy staying with my family and my friends, and you know that very well, Michael. And I think we share the same principles of family and friends. And I think that's important to have a healthy brain, healthy heart, in order to then go back to work and do your best there. And I play the piano, which also makes me forget about our daily lives. So these are the things I try to do to complement a little bit of our crazy lives.
Absolutely, you got to balance that work and play always. And so you're familiar, obviously, with Spore's products. Out of all the Spore mushroom blends, which would you recommend for someone looking to support their heart rate?
So yes, I'm familiar with the products, and there are many, as you all know. But I would say that for people who wants to improve uh, cardiovascular performance, I think you have the right product, which is Spore Cardiovascular Performance. And this is a great combination of products that our body is starved, and because we don't get it from the diet, and also the combination of mushrooms, vitamins, different supplements that have shown for many years, again, the antioxidant, anti-inflammatory properties that anybody should take, but particularly people who has these risk factors and the potential to develop heart disease. So I think it's from all the products that I've been searching, prescribing, or making recommendations, this is a nice compact product that have everything in one pill. So yeah, I think it's a good option. Uh, Probably the only option currently available that you can put everything together that we just discussed today in one single pill.
Yeah, that was the goal in formulating it. And we took a lot of time and diligence to do that. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. And thank you so much for joining us on Mushroom Mondays with Spore, Dr. Delgado. And just one last question. Where can our listeners find you, whether it be online or book an appointment with you? How would they go about that if they wanted to and they were in the area?
Sure. So I work at the Toronto General Hospital, so easy to find me there. And also, we have another clinic in North York. The name of the clinic is Vita Health Cardiac Center. We have a group of cardiologists that we are specializing in cardiovascular prevention and rare cardiovascular diseases. So this is the two spots where you can find me, or anybody can find me.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And to our viewers, thank you for joining us today. Dr. Delgado, thank you so much. You were awesome. You can tune in next Monday on our regularly scheduled time of 2 p.m. EST, 11 a.m. PST to catch the next episode of Mushroom Mondays on Spore's YouTube channel or on our Mushroom Community Facebook page. Remember to hit that subscribe button on YouTube to get notified when we go live. I'm Mike Zavik, co-host of Mushroom Mondays, and we'll see you next week.